Welcome to Built Together, the podcast where design, technology, and leadership meet to shape the spaces where we work, learn, and connect in. In every episode, you'll hear from architects, engineers, technologists, and innovators who are breaking down the silos and rethinking how we create spaces that truly bring people together. Because great spaces aren't just about the plans or the tech, they're about the people. And it's what's possible when we build together. Thank you, and welcome to Build Together. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Built Together podcast. Super excited to have you all join us today. Today, our theme is a great one. As you know, we are all about collaboration and how collaboration impacts design. And our guest today is a really special guest. Our topic and theme is all about hospitality and hospitality meeting collaboration. And our guest today is someone who embodies that in so many different ways. And I'm so grateful to have you with us here today. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to introduce Dina Belon. She is the president at Staypineapple Hotels chain. It's a hotel chain that I admire myself. My wife and I actually, when we were in Chicago, took a visit to the Chicago location. So, Dina, thank you so much for being here with us. And so much for sharing some time with us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. This is exciting. It's going to be fun.
I had the pleasure of meeting you actually at the AHLA conference, and you were on a panel, and your personality was shining throughout the entire panel. But I really enjoyed how passionate you were about that topic, and I came up to you afterwards and said hello. But for those who don't know who you are and may not have an understanding of Staypineapple, the Staypineapple brand, if you could just take a second to walk us through who you are, right? Your journey in the space. You have a very, very unique career path, and that's one that I think is really just exciting to hear about. But I'm sure it's exciting for you to kind of speak about. So if you could take us down a path to learn a little bit more about you and who you are.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. So I'm the president of Staypineapple Hotels. We are a boutique hotel brand that has 10 hotels across the US. And I started my career as a designer. So I graduated from Florida State University with an interior design degree. Learned fairly quickly that I didn't love design enough to continue to do it. So I sidestepped into construction, which I really loved. I enjoyed very much the linear thought process of construction, the kind of scheduling and budgeting and that kind of thing. I realized that those were natural ways that my brain worked. And so I eventually became a general contractor at one point in my career. I did also work for the big brands like everybody else in the hotel business. I started with Marriott, also worked for Wyndham primarily, and then a group called the Peabody Hotel Group, which is in Memphis. I worked at the one in Orlando. So I did a lot of the kind of big box hotel work. And most of that I was in development. So either developing or renovating hotels. So really always kind of in some capacity in the built environment. That gave me, obviously, however, a somewhat focused career in the hotel business, which isn't a natural transition into overall leadership. Typically you're going
Right.
to do a wider variety of experiences. So at one point I moved out west and started working in a tech company, which was only for about a year. I realized that the startup tech world was not my jam. It's there's a lot, right? But um it's very chaotic. And I think that linear thinker I struggled with. So I eventually landed up in Seattle, which I absolutely love. Who knew somebody that lived in Florida for 30 years would fall in love with the Pacific Northwest. I don't think I could have moved farther away and stayed in the United States, except for Alaska maybe, which is where I was
Right.
born. So I've hit all of the farthest reaches of the United States as best I can. But yeah, I really ended up here and by happenstance joined Stay Pineapple really in the built environment space. And then over the last decade have worked through this organization in different roles. Um, Eventually leading to the top spot. The boutique hotel business is very different than
Sure. Yeah.
the branded hotel business. The whole model, the way we function is very different. So it took me a couple years to figure that out, but once I did, I fell in love. And I told Michelle, our founder, a long time ago, she's going to have to fire me to get rid of me because this is it. I found my home. This is my retirement job. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Look, I think that for one, it is so true. The boutique hotel environment is vastly different than the big box environment. And the unique aspect of your journey, just being able to take on so many different roles with Stay Pineapple, I feel like that's something that is also a bit unique to some of the more boutique hotel
Hmm.
brands. And for me, I actually started my AV career in hospitality. I was a sales manager at the Four Seasons Hotel in the Beverly Wilshire. And as you probably, I'm sure you know, the Four Seasons has a very by the book way that they run their hotel operation. And although I was on the AV side of that business, PSAV was a company that kind of worked within the hotel brand, and we oversaw a lot of the technical elements of the different shows that they ran, the multi-million dollar bat mitzvahs, the really big, crazy weddings with all of those wedding planners that people would see on TV. We actually got those people at the Beverly Wilshire, and it was an interesting time. I'll just say that. But I learned so much, not just about AV in that role, but about hospitality and what it actually means when a brand has an identity and when a brand is they're really set in their ways of that identity, but it's what makes them unique. People truly go to visit those spaces because of that. And for you, I feel like Stay Pineapple has such a unique personality and it shines in everything that you all do, from your taglines to just the overall experience in the hotel space. And one of the questions that I kind of have for you is, you know what keeps Stay Pineapple energized, right? How much of that brand personality is reflective of like you and your leadership and just leadership in general within the organization? Because I think that it's a very special thing.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it is who we want to be. I think if you were gonna if you're gonna find one word related to Stay Pineapple, it's fun. And that's we do that here at work. It's the way the hotels are run. It's the essence of who we are. Is I have People have heard me say probably 100 times. If you're not having fun in the hotel business, you're doing it the wrong way. Like, we're not brain surgeons. Let's be realistic, right? We're running hotel. It is a fun, energizing, and maybe it's because I started in the resort space, right? I spent the first 20 years of my career in resorts. People are having such a good time when they're on vacation that that's
Right.
how I see the hotel business. So I think that's really at the core. And then when it comes to leadership, our founder, Michelle, really had a very clear vision of what she wanted to create. And it was a company that got back to the core values of what hospitality is about. And it's about building relationships and it's about creating community and engagement and collaboration, right? And having a sense of belonging, which has, and this was 15 years ago. She didn't foresee where we're at today, but it's interesting that today human beings need more than anything that sense of belonging and community because we're more disconnected from each other than we've ever been. And we talk about purpose at State Pineapple a lot. And really, what is our purpose as hoteliers? And one of the areas that we focus on is really being a hub for that community opportunity. And when
Sure.
we say community, we mean local and we mean guest alike, right? We want everybody to come in the hotel. We're not a hotel that is going to ask you for your key card at the front door or you can't come in. We
Right.
invite you in. Come in, use the free Wi-Fi in the lobby, grab a cup of coffee, don't grab a cup of coffee, whatever, hang out, be you and enjoy the space. And I think that is a purpose for a hotel company today is really kind of being that the real estate that can allow that to happen and being open to it.
Yeah, it's surprising to me to think about how much, especially in the tech world, we talk about collaboration. But I feel like one of the most unique places for collaboration is in hospitality, and it is in the hotel environment. And the bigger hotel chains, one of the things that you actually spoke about on stage was how, the boutique hotel chains have the ability, one, you're a lot closer to that guest experience in many ways, but two, to be more nimble in how you encourage those moments of collaboration or the unique ways that your team and or hotel property can stand out to your guests. What does that mean for you all today? And kind of what does that look like, both from a guest experience standpoint and also are you utilizing technology in any way to encourage some of that collaboration within the hotel?
Absolutely. So, first of all, I think it starts at the very highest level in culture. So, we talk about all the time that every day the team members that are at the hotel and the guests that are at the hotel are co-creating the culture for the day, right? Like, what
Right.
is the hotel going to feel like? What's the vibe going to be? What's the energy going to be for that day? It's a collaboration between the guests and the team members. There's not enough team members at our hotels to enforce a certain vibe, right?
Right.
Whoever's in the hotel is going to help create it. So I think it's really important that the key element to what we do inside of the operations is really encouraging our team members to be themselves and bring their whole self to work. And that they everybody talks about that. It sounds really simple, but in fact it's very hard. And for a lot of people that we interview, it's a big part of our interview process because if you come to us with 10 years of experience at Marriott, this is actually gonna feel very uncomfortable, right? We're not gonna put a navy blazer on you and give you a manual and tell you how to be a Stay Pineapple. You are going to have to let go and be yourself and
Mhm.
be willing to take the risk to be yourself and show your own personality and your own unique nature and way of doing things. And we believe that that creates so much more of an authentic connection to the guests. And the guests feel it in the hotel, right? They sense when we've scripted somebody to tell them how to answer a phone that doesn't feel good. It feels
Yeah.
rote and inauthentic. So what we do is we hire for emotional intelligence and critical thinking, and then we get out of the way. And then we coach, right? We don't have books of SOPs. I'm the anti-SOP president. I don't if I could get rid of every SOP, right? We're in the process of ridding we have very few, but ridding all of them. And that's how we use technology. What really should exist is support systems for our team members to help them know how to do things, not an SOP. I don't need to tell you how to get it done. I just need to tell you what the end result is. And that's the
Right.
difference between an SOP and an expectation.
Sure.
So I expect that you're going to deliver great guest experience and be friendly and engaging with guests. But I'm not going to tell you how to do that. You do that how you do that. That may be by, shouting yo when people come in the hotel. it would not come across authentically from me because that would not be a natural way for me to do it. But I have
Right.
watched team members do it, and I've literally sat in our lobbies and cringed at the stuff that team members have said, and then watched a guest bust out laughing and like start a conversation and start to build a relationship and create authentic connection with the people that they're talking with. And that is so much more important than me imposing my value system on that team member and what I think is appropriate or inappropriate. Um, so yeah, I mean, as long as we're being kind and ethical, the boundaries are pretty wide at our
Sure.
company and the fences are low. We really scary sometimes, but that's some of how we create that special environment. And then
Sure.
the technology is what's really there to remove transaction and remove friction out of the process so that the team can just spend time interacting.
And I think we're seeing this more and more today. When technology is implemented in a hospitality environment, whether it be a hotel, a restaurant, or whatever that may be, sometimes I feel like uh, it, you almost ask what was the intention behind implementing the technology in that way? Because was the intention to enhance the guest experience or take away from building connection? Because it does take some of the human out of the process, and human
Hmm.
centered design is such a big concept right now. And I think that one, it should have been something that we've always thought about, right? But we're more actionable on it today. But in your hotel chain, in your environment, one of the one of the stories I heard, and I'm not sure if I heard this from you or if it was a story of yours, but it was about a the front desk agent going home and like cooking a meal for a guest because a restaurant was closed, right? Technology can't you can't do that, right? You can't recreate a moment like that. And what are some of the ways that you all are utilizing technology to really assist your team in making the guest experience amazing and not take away from like moments like that, right? Like that is such a special thing. I mean, if I was a guest, I would remember that forever. And everywhere I go, I would say, hey, I want to stay at a Pineapple Hotel, especially the one in San Diego. I think you guys have one in the Gas Lamp, and that's my hometown. So I'm gonna check
Love
that
it.
out the next time I head there. But yeah, like, how do you utilize technology to really kind of assist your team in making that guest experience amazing while still keeping a lot of the personality that is Stay Pineapple, that is each individual too, right? Like, if you could speak to that just a little bit.
Yeah, so that is one of my favorite stories to tell. That's what we call Surprise and Delight. Surprise and Delight is a team member empowerment program. People think it's always a guest program, but it's really about the team members being empowered to use their own creativity to do things that they want to do for either guests or their coworkers. It's either or. Opportunity is broad and wide. We don't put limits on it. There's no specific budget for it. There's no, we don't set up hard guardrails. I wish somebody would go too far. Like it's never happened in the history of Stay Pineapple. I wish there was a time that I could say, okay, you've officially done too much. But it's really, really important for allowing the team members to use their creativity and their own spark. And that's what that situation was, right? That team member and guest made a connection over a shared heritage, right? And they had a similar dish that they loved, and that guest was in town to have that food at that restaurant, and the restaurant was closed, and she was so sad and so upset that the team member went home and made the dish that she was looking for. That kind of connection you can't mandate, you can't duplicate, you can't force people to be that way. They either are or aren't. What we can do from a technology perspective now, so we've always done that kind of stuff. The history of the company has always been around building relationships and having an innkeeper mentality with our guests. So we listen on property, we hear you say things, we overhear you in the lobby saying something maybe to your spouse, whatever it is, and we use our creative juices to come up with really cool and interesting things that blow people's mind. That's been our history. What we have now is the ability to record all of that information and share it across our portfolio. So
Wow.
not only does a team member do an amazing surprise and delight for a guest at that moment, but then they also record the information in the guest profile, what is called zero party data, right? Data that we've
Hmm.
gotten directly from the guest. So
Right.
to us, zero party data is so much more valuable because it's deep psychographic information. The fact that
Sure.
you like Diet Coke or Dr. Pepper, sure, it's nice to know, but that's not psychographic information. That doesn't tell me what makes you tick or what excites you or what you're passionate about. That's what I want to know. I want to know the stuff that really touches you. So we can, when we gain that information from guests, whether it's through our single question that we send everybody in their pre arrival, why are you coming? Simple question. And people provide us unbelievable volumes of information.
Right.
Actually, when we started asking it, we thought we might get 5 or 10% of people responding, and we'll probably get a lot of coming for work or, whatever. We get paragraphs of, because it's just an open text box. You can type anything you want into it, and you would be amazed at the amount of information people provide to us. And so we incorporate that into guest profiles, and then those guest profiles become fodder for us, particularly over time, right? As
Hmm.
that profile becomes more enriched, then we know more and more about you, and we can not only surprise and delight you, but we can connect you to curated experiences that we think you would like. We can connect you with team members that have similar likes or passions. If you're a serious cycler, you're not going to want to use our free pineapple cruiser bikes because
Right.
they're beach cruisers, right? So maybe a team member can connect you with their buddy that works at the bike shop down the street so that you can ride a real bike when you want to go out for an exercise, right? Like things like that that are all about you and what matters to you. That's really where technology is creating an opportunity to allow us to up our game and scale it. So we used to be able to touch 10 to 15% of our guests in a unique, interesting way. But now we can touch 50 or 60% of our guests in a way like that because we have so much more information available to us.
Yeah, and data is a huge thing. Data is a huge thing, not just in hospitality, but it's becoming more and more prevalent in our space and the audiovisual world, right? From
Mhm.
from a design standpoint, from a technology consideration standpoint, we as AV, we have so many different endpoints inside of a property, whether that's the cameras or the front desk, the EMS, PMS machines, all these different aspects of technology that we integrate, that we design, and there's data that's coming from that. And that data can then be given back to the hotel in a very influential way. You actually come from a background where you worked in architecture, you worked in construction, and now, of course, on the hotel side of the business. And for you, this is a question that I want to ask because I feel like it's one that I kind of ask everyone who's done those has been involved in different aspects of the trade. In your experience in dealing with audiovisual like integrators or designers or whatever that may be in the different hotel chains, what are some of the ways that you feel like those relationships and or experiences can be improved? Because I think that a lot of times when working with a major hotel brand, there may be a standard look that they go for in every single property, and whatever they design here is what they're going to design in Memphis or wherever else.
Mhm.
But for a boutique brand like yours, every property is unique, right? Chicago doesn't really look like San Diego. It won't feel like San Diego.
Mhm.
And the same is true for other locations. Even, from a standpoint of knowledge, a technology integrator or manufacturer trying to do business with a company like yours, like how could those types of relationships be improved? And what are your thoughts around just what those experiences have been like for you in the various different paths that you've taken in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, and particularly in the boutique space, um, being innovative and not letting necessarily the client's stated needs be the limitation of the end result.
Mm,
So, um, I may say, we want to put a display in our lobby, a 9 by 9 wall display. We want to be able to display different things, maybe show games on it, sporting games or something. And you may go, that's great. We can do that. That's not a problem. But here's some other ideas. So I'll use an example of a really cool one that we have at the Maxwell. So we have a display wall that's a wall and it goes up over the ceiling as well. So again, we may have originally thought, well, let's do a wall display. But at some point in the interaction with the design team, we were like, what if we ran it up the ceiling
mm,
seamlessly so that the digital content could utilize the ceiling horizontal as well as the wall vertical surface? And it makes it so much more interesting. So we have like digital content that is balls falling and they fall from the ceiling and they roll down the ceiling and then down the wall. Or we have things that go up and over the ceiling in the actual digital content. We ended up turning that display into an art exhibit, which most people wouldn't think of doing. So there's all kinds of really fascinating, interesting digital art work. But we're not like displaying a fixed piece of art. It's like a ballerina dancing with light attached to her feet across the screen and then up over the ceiling. Um,
wow.
Things like that. Really fascinating and interesting things. Utilizing a camera that we have actually displays you if you're walking past the digital wall, it'll display you on the wall, and then it puts a Dash, Dash is our dog, our mascot.
Right.
It puts a Dash bobblehead on your head as you walk by on the display, right? Or a big pineapple on your head. So you see yourself walking by and then Dash becomes your head. So, can it be fun things? Like, I think that's where the AV digital team can really help figure out ways to be more creative. Ways beyond, again, we're not technologists as hospitality people. So,
Right.
how can the people that are embedded in technology and embedded in the possibilities of what could be, how can they help us think bigger, dream bigger, and do more with something that you thought the limitations were here?
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to your experience in theater, right? And you mentioned that the hotel is the stage, right? And AV should really be there to help influence and enhance the performance, but the performance is your teammates, your team members, and ultimately making that experience impactful. You mentioned digital signage and content, and funny enough, I'm actually headed to San Diego in 2 weeks for the Digital Signage Expo, where they talk all about content. And in those projects early on in my design consulting career, we would get clients that would want to talk about the display size and all these different things, but they really miss out on the content piece. And the content is really king in those environments. And it's important, I think, for you, as you just described, how the digital signage really adds to the experience, but it's the content that truly brings it to life. And I think a lot of organizations could benefit from that understanding. And then a lot of the AV professionals can benefit from really being involved in that, conversation with you or with a member of the team that's similar, similar to the position of you, like understanding what those goals are ultimately.
100%. 100%. Yeah. If you don't if you don't have in mind what the content's gonna be that you're gonna display, you're not gonna design the display.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. That's a fact, and I've seen it. I've seen it in many different cases. There's sometimes I'll walk into a space and I'm like, oh wow, they really didn't think that through. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously never at a state pineapple property, so that was
Yeah,
never
'cause we
the
never make
case.
mistakes at State Pineapple.
No, no. No, not at all, not at all. I mean, it's like some people just get it though, right? And obviously with a creative team like the team that you have and the ability to add personality to so many different aspects of the work, it's not hard to see why your brand stands out, right? It makes to me a lot of sense, especially after hearing you speak and understanding that that's kind of within the culture of the organization. I think that's really important. That tells the story itself. And I think that the other kind of question that I have for you, I know that AI is a big thing right now. It's being talked about in every industry, ours included. And you've mentioned that you want to keep your team involved as much as possible in a human centered aspect. But is AI making a difference at Stay Pineapple? Is that technology something that you all are considering? And has it been a topic that's been discussed mainly on the hotel side, or are you dealing with technology partners that are trying to introduce new AI technologies to you all kind of on a more common basis?
All of the above. Yes. Yes, yes, and yes. We are very involved in AI development, both from our tech partners' perspective and internally. We have been further ahead of our tech partners in some cases in what we know we want. And so we have built it ourselves. We actually have an in-house AI programmer, which is probably extremely rare in a hotel company, certainly a hotel company with 10 hotels. But we think is so important to our ability to outcompete the big box. So we're attacking it from multiple fronts. I would say the first one is the back of house side, removing inefficiency in our systems. I'll give you a very small example, but there's 100 of these in our company currently, either have been thought of, are done, or are in production. So, creating an AI agent that can review all of the INs from our new hires and provide feedback as to whether they're properly filled out or improperly filled out. Today, or previous to today, this is one that we just rolled out. We had a whole person that was making sure that all of that drudgery paperwork was getting done. Well, now we've freed all of her time because our team built it and then trained it, not programmed it. She trained the AI for how to do it properly over time, right? As she was reviewing lines, then she taught the AI how to do it correctly. So now the AI just flags ones and sends it back to the general manager and says, hey, you've got this problem, go fix it. So we've saved an inordinate amount of unuseful, irritating time for that team member here at our home office. So that's a really little example, but there's lots of those. And then on the bigger picture, we are using AI to really develop better analytics and understanding and future forecasting to be
Sure.
sure that we're maximizing every single bit of our competitive ability in our markets, in each of our markets, so that we can outcompete on digital platforms. That is how being nimble and future focused is how I think boutique hotels and small brands can win, is by always being ahead of, everybody else and what they're doing. We don't have scale, but we have that. So we're really focused on that. And then I think we're also really focused on how AI can help improve guest experience by removing transaction and removing barriers or processes that are inefficient or annoying to guests. I
Sure.
shouldn't have to put my credit card in on my digital check-in and then also have to give you my credit card information again when I show up, things like that. So, how can we make that guest journey as seamless as possible from discovery all the way through checkout?
Yeah, I think one question that I have, as we get closer to a wrap up, is in the next 10 years, do you see hotels becoming, I mean, with everything that you just said, with some of the stuff that I've read, and also just the way technology is going, things like wearables and all these other additions, RFID chips and all these different ways to track data and use that data to either enhance property or customer experience or to understand your customer better. Like, do you see hotels becoming like tech hubs with beds, or do you feel like the heart of hospitality is going to remain that human-centered environment? Because it could kind of go either way. Wanted to hear your thoughts on on how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be different approaches, and that's okay, right? There's already hotel brands that are almost human. They've removed the humans out of the process. You check in online, you go to the hotel, you get in your room with your phone. You don't ever go to the front desk. You may stay at a hotel and never interact with a human being. That's an experience. It's not an experience that Stay Pineapple is going to do because that's not our business model. Our business model is a very human-centric, relationship-based, experience, and we believe that that is something that guests inherently desire and are looking for. Not all guests. There are guests that don't wanna talk to another person, and that's okay. They're not gonna come they're not a Stay Pineapple guest, right? They're not gonna be attracted to our brand, and that's all right. But I do see on the horizon something that I think is sad in that I think the hotel industry has always been a low margin industry, and labor has always been a big part of what has caused that margin to constrain. And so I think there's going to be a lot of hotel companies that are going to take advantage of technology and AI to eliminate humans out of the process, and I personally think that that's to the detriment of the hotel industry as a whole. Again, I believe that hotels have a position. Think back, to the innkeeper when you used to drive across the country on a vacation. When I was a kid, the parents threw you in the back of the station wagon and you drove to a vacation spot. And along the way, you stayed at, roadside motels, and a husband and wife owned it and managed it, and you got to know them, and often you went to the same place every year on vacation, and so you
Right.
got to know the people that that kind of atmosphere is not something that I think a lot of the hotel companies will hang on to in the future. We will, we will hang on to that. And I think we will have a competitive advantage because of that contrarian perspective. And there will be others, right? There will be other brands that hang on to the human in hospitality. But yeah, I think we'll see the loss of people out of the hotel business in a lot of brands as well.
Yeah, I think that I mean we already see it in so many different ways in every industry. It's like how can we eliminate the human part of the human experience. And I personally feel like AI is a huge tool. It can help
Mhm.
in so many different ways. It can improve our lives in so many different ways. I use it every day, but I really enjoy people. when I go to a hotel or when I go to a restaurant, I don't know that I would want to be served by a robot or checked in by a robot. It is something about having that human connection on the off chance that you show up by yourself and somebody just asks you, "How was your day?" And,
Yeah.
you know, like, that small piece of it, I think is what is at the heart of hospitality, and I would hate to see that go away, and I think that that's where, in the future, boutique hotels, I believe for sure will really shine because I
Mm.
think that, you all have a very unique way of going about not only your hiring, right, but designing each of those individual experiences. My wife and I, we tried our hand at Airbnb and doing our investment thing and trying to
Mhm.
figure out ways to make our properties unique and all of that. And there's so much passion that goes into that. There's so much fun that goes into that, and people feel that when they walk in, and that's what gives the that's what gives people the the chance to want to leave a review or say something special because it made them feel special. And I think as you take the human out of that, there's nuance in special, right? And you lose a bit of that. So I'm really happy to hear that the Stay Pineapple is going to stay the same in that sense, but always, of course, changing.
You can have technology and evolution and innovation and human centric business model at the same time. It's not an either or. You can do both. You just have to work at it. You have to put your time and energy and thought into it.
Yeah, I think there's a special place in the industry for future professionals. If you're listening to this, there's a special place in the industry for folks who are focused on workplace and focused on the human centered design aspect of all things workplace, whether it's the office space or a hotel or stadium, you name it. There's a special place in the industry for folks that are focused on that, and it's something that's deep near and dear to my heart. And it was one of the main reasons that this whole thing was put together was because I wanted to speak to other folks who feel the same way. And Dina, it's been such a pleasure to have you on. And again, always great talking to you. As I mentioned, you know, the day that I met you. And for our guests, where can they find you? Where can they look up, you know, more about you, or if you're speaking at somewhere soon or anything like that? If you want to share any of that information, feel free. But it's been such a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing, and I am a huge supporter of the message that you're trying to get out. So thank you. And you can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm very public, and feel free to contact me anytime. And I will be speaking at the hospitality show and a number of other conferences throughout the end of the year. So come up and grab me, and I'd love to chat.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the message as much as I did. Really appreciate all of you and your time.